Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for sticking around. I was going to share an interesting little story. When this panel was first, I guess, being assembled, I wasn't in on the early discussions, but apparently the topic came up about how can we make this last panel of the day more interesting? You know, give it more spice, more jazz to keep people attending. And the idea was floated that actually got a lot of traction, which was to allow the attendees to have alcohol. Just let them bring the beer in now. And that would include the panelists. Unfortunately, the idea was killed, but I was thinking, had that idea passed, there'd be quite a few people in this room, and maybe including myself, who would be saying, I don't remember a single thing that guy said, but his presentation was pretty good. But alas, that, as I said, the motion was killed, and so let's just try to get through this. Here's the things we're going to cover. Here's the things we're going to cover today. Just a little background on Outrigger Energy. We'll talk about the project that we did last year in Williams County. Go a little bit into gas processing as it pertains to cryogenic versus refrigeration, and then close with that. I can't read my slides. Can you hear me? Okay. Outrigger Energy has extensive experience in midstream. That's pretty much all we do. That's all we've ever done. Myself and various iterations of our management team have been together for decades through 5 different companies dating back to Western Gas Resources, Anadarko, Bear Tracker, Outrigger Energy 1, and now Outrigger Energy 2. And through that time frame, we've invested over $5 billion, that's in today's dollars, in midstream facilities, built, operated, sold some of them. But all that to say, we have a lot of experience in midstream across all aspects of it. And that's full stream processing of gas, transportation of crude oil, handling of NGLs, fractionation, and so on. We have a very good track record of safe and reliable project design and operations. Outrigger Energy 1 was started in 2013. We had assets down in the Permian. It was 3 cryogenic plants, several hundred miles of gathering, both gas and crude. And we sold that system to Targa in 2017. We also had a crude oil gathering system that we did for Devon up in the Powder River Basin, and we sold that to Tallgrass in 2017. At that time, we started up Outrigger 2. That time we started up Outrigger 2, and we started with a system in the DJ. We have a 60 million a day cryo plant in the DJ, some gathering lines, a couple compressor stations, as well as some crude gathering. And then we built our asset last year up here in the Williston Basin, which I'll get into in a minute. Here's another slide that just kind of talks about our various experience in all these basins. We've built systems and operated systems in all the Rockies basins, as well as the Permian and Mid-Continent. And then there's just some detail on what some of those individual projects were. Here is our Outrigger Energy 2 sustainability slide, and you can see in smaller font and in parentheses, ESG. I guess that's my passive-aggressive swipe back at the man. The man in this case being the collective brain trust who's deciding where all the money is going. I'm not trying to minimize that. I'm not minimizing the importance of ESG. In fact, it's very important. All aspects of ESG are important, but if you've been in this business for any length of time, or you want to be in this business for any length of time and you want to do it successfully, I would submit that you've already been doing a lot of the concepts that are covered by this banner everybody calls ESG. So, enough said about that. As far as Outrigger Energy's ESG efforts on the safety side, we have a very strong safety culture. We train every employee, that's office and field, in a behavioral-based safety system, behavior-based safety system, which focuses on hazard ID, self-awareness, and continuous improvement. Since the time we started Outrigger 1 in 2013, we have a TRIR, total recordable incident rate, of 0.0, and that's after hundreds of thousands of man-hours worked for our employees. We successfully implemented some fairly robust COVID-19 protocols in our project in the Williston last year that worked out very well. And obviously, we're committed to maintaining a safe work environment. On the environmental side, Our 2019 methane intensity rates were well below One Future Coalition. One Future Coalition is basically a consortium of, I think, around 40 midstream companies that get together and report what their average methane losses are. I think the numbers for the coalition for 2019 were 0.045% methane loss. I think Outrigger's numbers for 2019 were 0.007, so about 1/6 of the midstream average. We do use extensive use of optical gas imaging during our leak detection repair systems. We have 0 reportable spills through Outrigger 1 and Outrigger 2. And we do, on a voluntary basis, do fairly innovative emissions reductions efforts, such as installing eductors on the regen overheads on all of our large TEGD highs. So those vapors that have otherwise been vented or flared, we recover and put them back into the system for processing. As well as, we do vapor recovery units also on all of our larger compressor stations. We also have instrument air systems on every one of our assets. So any item that uses some kind of pneumatics, whether it be control valves or controllers themselves, we use instrument air instead of instrument gas. On the social and governance side, we have a strong capital partner in NGP out of Dallas. They have been in the ESG business, so to speak, for years and have established some fairly robust thresholds that for all their portfolio companies to meet, and Outrigger does meet all of those. We are extensively engaged and have good relationships with all of the regulatory agencies in the areas that we work, as well as community organizations. Just a basic cross-section, an example of some of those organizations are shown below there in the slide. And we are committed to providing a diverse and inclusive workplace, and then every member of management, as well as the applicable employees, mostly the field guys and gals, have their compensation tied to ESG performance goals. So we'll talk about our project that we did last year. This is in Williams County. We built a 250 million a day cryo plant just west of Williston near the state line. It is a UOP RSV technology plant, so it has the ability to make very high ethane recovery, 95% plus, or very low ethane recovery while maintaining high propane recovery when you're in ethane rejection. The residue gas is delivered straight into Northern Border, and the NGLs are delivered straight into One Oak. We purposefully located this plant here just because of that. We could directly tie into those main outlets. And then at the same time, we built a gathering line, a combination of 20 and 24-inch line, 80 miles long. It's 600 ANSI, so it's got a 1,480 pound MAOP, and we expect the thing to be operating around 1,350 pounds as it gets full. It has a capacity of, depending on where the gas comes into the system, of around 450 million cubic feet per day. And I should mention the plant site was also built with expansion in mind. We can add another 250 million a day train at that location. So the system, because that is a wet gas gathering line, it offers area producers a very good opportunity to bring their gas into the system and have their products, or have the gas processed for high recovery, whether it be propane or ethane and heavier, and have their products delivered straight into the market pipelines. The project was entirely underwritten by a long-term contract with XTO. That contract took off and on 2 years to negotiate. We finally got it done in December of 2019. Part of that contract required us to have that project up and running by the end of 2020, basically 1 year. So we knew that was in the contract before we had it signed. We were already kind of putting the wheels in motion to accomplish that schedule. And so we kicked the project off on December 4th, 2019. We went through the regulatory permitting steps with Williams County Board of County Commissioners, North Dakota PSC. We got the final order on May 13th. We broke ground on May 14th. We broke ground on the pipeline July 7th, and we finished the project on July 6th. So less than 7 months of construction time from start to finish. While we were building the plant, XTO and Exxon came to us and asked to renegotiate the contracts, because during that time, obviously the pandemic had hit, oil prices had cratered, and they needed to redo their development plan. So they requested us to delay the start of when they could do their development we renegotiated that contract, we preserved our economics, and now they have the ability to bring their gas in later, and we have a completely empty system that we have plenty of room for. Yes, some of the highlights there, we did have over 750 people at the peak of construction between the plant and the pipeline, and we had very specific COVID-19 protocols that they had to follow. There were, I mean, for example, there were no more than 10 people in a pod that would show up today every day on in the same group of folks. And those pods, there were dozens of them on both projects. We had one COVID outbreak in one pod on the pipeline and one pod on the plant. Those folks went home and quarantined and came back, and those were the only issues we had with any kind of COVID issues. So I'll spend a minute here just talking about cryogenic processing versus refrigeration plants. The reason I'm doing that is that our system actually goes through an area where there are a lot of refrigeration plants. But if you start with 1 MCF of basically average Bakken gas, you'd have roughly 540 cubic feet of methane, 6 gallons of ethane in vapor form, 4 gallons of propane, 2 gallons of butanes, and 1.5 gallons of C5+, for a total of about 13 gallons per MCF. If you process that gas in a refrigeration plant, you can expect to recover about 7.5 gallons per MCF, whereas if you process that gas in a cryo plant with full ethane recovery, you can expect to recover more like 12.5 gallons per MCF. So what that results in, if you ignore the ethane, because most people are not in ethane recovery right now, but if you just look at the propane, the value of that uplift of that 1.4 GPM of propane increased recovery is about $1.14 to $1.20 per MCF of wellhead gas, and that's just based on March of 21 pricing. So if you further look at, and I'm referring to our system, because we are tied directly in the northern border, if you take the netback, looking at this waterfall chart, if you take the netback of the average refrigeration plant, it's about $6 per MCF. You'd have to subtract about 6 cents per MCF for the additional fuel to process in the cryo plant. You would save the fee that it takes to get your gas from the outlet of your refrigeration plant to northern border. That's the 35 cents. And likewise, you would save about 9 cents per MCF on trucking of the NGLs to get them into a pipeline such as One Oak, which is where our products go. And then the $1.14 from the previous slide is the upgrade on the cryogenic for a total upgrade of about $1.50 per MCF. So it's significant. I mean, that $1.50 upgrade will more than likely pay for the fee, or come pretty close to paying for the fee that it would take to put that gas through our processing plant. Here's Justin's slides on GOR, and I've had him give me the data for just Montreal County and Williams County. I appreciate all your help on these, Justin. But this one shows basically the same thing his slides were showing as the overall Bakken. The GOR is increasing significantly. If you look in Williams County, the wells that were drilled in 2020, they are on a ramp to be at about 4 MCF per barrel by the second year of production, compared to about 2.5 MCF per barrel just 5 years ago. So the GOR is significantly increasing. We expect a lot of gas as the rigs return. This one again is from Justin's data. The graph on the left is basically our system in the area, and then the oval where we believe our area will reach to approximately. We have the potential to gather a lot of these flared volumes that are both not connected to systems and currently connected to systems. Likewise, we believe our system is in a very good area as far as being able to capture a lot of the DUCs and the existing drilling that's going on in the basin right now. And Justin covered the northern border BTU issue very well. Just a couple more fun facts about it. These arrows on the left are basically the chronology of the history of northern border. It was built in 1983, and at that time its only customer was Northern Natural Gas. They didn't have a BTU spec, which is why northern border doesn't have a BTU spec. And then in 1998, and again in 2002, they added these outlets in the Chicago area, including Natural Gas Pipeline and these others that you see. The first run the FERC made at trying to make this BTU spec a real regulation, they failed at it, and the FERC gave this as their fundamental reason. A lot of the people that were against this were some of the operators upstream in North Dakota, And their claim was that it would take billions and billions of dollars to make this fix, to have their plants be retrofitted to make that spec, which is probably true if that's really how you're going to handle it. The people downstream of North Dakota obviously were in favor. They were mostly marketers. They'd like to have the fungibility of being able to move the gas to whichever pipeline they want. In one of Justin's slides, he estimates about 80,000 gallons of incremental ethane needs to be recovered from the basin in order to meet the BTU spec, just based on his base case volume projection. Our Sanderson plant is capable of recovering about 32,000 gallons, or 32,000 barrels per day, or about 40% of that total, for way less than billions of dollars. And then my final slide here is just an example of midstream companies working together to capture gas. Hess had announced earlier in the year that they were going to be shutting down their Tioga plant for a major turnaround. They anticipate the shutdown to be about 45 days. And so we were working out an agreement with them where they were going to offload their gas, or a significant portion of that gas, onto our system at a new interconnect, and then we'll process that gas while they do their turnaround project. So this allows them to keep producing. It allows a lot of gas to be captured that otherwise would have been shut in or flared, and allows us to get our plant started up. So it was a win-win deal. And obviously we're pursuing other offload type arrangements and gathering and processing deals in other parts of our system. And I think just about all of them have a longer term than 45 days, so that's good. In summary, we like the situation where the place where the positioning of our system, our plant and our gathering system. We believe it provides the opportunity for significant economic uplift for the area refrigeration plant customers, significant opportunity to capture otherwise flared gas, both currently and in the future. And to the extent the Northern Border issue becomes an issue again, we believe it'll be a key player in helping to solve that problem. Yeah, the 2020 COVID pandemic obviously caused everybody to take a step back. If there was a silver lining, it kind of gave everybody the chance to relook at what their plans are and maybe come back in a more controlled manner. And it allows us to do these collaboration type deals with other companies. So that was actually a good thing. And in closing, we do have a very good record of project execution. We've had success in multiple basins. And as far as North Dakota goes, I couldn't be more grateful to Governor Burgum and Lieutenant Governor Sanford and all the state agencies for that matter. They were very supportive and cooperative in helping us to get our project done. We never would have met that timeline without their help. So in closing, yeah, we are a large company. Our management team has large company experience and capability, but we have the nimbleness and flexibility of a small company. And we made it.
All right. Thank you, Dave. I guess the question that comes to mind on your presentation is, over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen just a tremendous amount of change in the world and our industry. I imagine access to capital has changed. Could you walk us through your perspective on midstream capitalization the last few years?
Yeah, that's a big topic. You know, 2 years ago, when you think about how this industry was funded, we had pretty good access to capital, and it was about that time that investors started realizing that the energy sector was not returning their capital. All the money was going back into growth. And in fact, I think there was a period there, quite a long period, where out of all the sectors in the stock market, energy was the worst performing. I mean, healthcare, industrials, medical, you name it. Like, we were even worse than retail. Like, energy couldn't beat JCPenney's. It was a bad time. So what has happened is you've seen the producers, the upstream guys, adjust to that, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of kind of scaling back their capital spend and then starting to return money to the investors. And I think we as midstream guys are different, like maybe one differential away from that. We've seen the capital tougher to get. And I know I got pretty cheeky with that ESG slide, but that is the world we're in right now. You have to have a very robust ESG program and be able to have a lot of transparency around it and reporting around it in order to be considered for capital. but I do see things improving.
Okay. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.